Welcome back to the Piping Pastor, Poetry in the Bible. Today we'll be talking about how to deal with a time of suffering by looking at the poetry from Load Poems Like Guns. Well, this evening I'm enjoying one of my favorite tobaccos, if not the favorite, Seattle Pipe Club's Plum Pudding Bourbon Barrel Aged Reserve. I like the plum pudding, just the regular and the plum pudding reserve, but this tops them all, and this is definitely easily in my top three. If not my number one. The only downside, it does take a bit of maintenance. So even if you'd like some drying time, it still requires some fiddling about. So I will apologize in advance if I have to keep pausing to relight. Well, I'm smoking in what is, I know now, thanks to Potter Piper, my Lee Van Cleef Meerschaum, with the adjustments I've made to it, of course. And it's coloring up pretty nicely. Using that the Armchair Piper technique, the bottom has not gotten any real darker. I've waxed the top, of course, and it's picking up some color. So I don't smoke this exclusively, so it's going to color as my other Meerschaum has, which that one's taken about a year and a half to get where it's at. So about another year or so, but good things come to those who wait. There's a story I have a pipe book written by Dunhill, published in the early 1800s, early 1800s, I think. And it has a story in there about I think it's a company commander in the East India Trading Company who had a Meerschaum pipe and desired to have it colored perfectly. And so he made it as an assignment to his junior officers to constantly smoke the pipe. So it was smoked without break, like for 24 hours a day until it got the color he wanted. And he packed it with, of course, the most expensive tobaccos and so forth. So basically the pipe got passed around. I'm not sure that's probably the best technique, constantly smoking a pipe. But according to the story in the book, it worked. So and I'm sure his officers didn't mind having a nice pipe, anytime they wanted for free. I'll be going the more traditional route with just some occasional smokes. Well, we have been having a snowy time here in Maryland, which has been lovely because we haven't had hardly any snow the last couple of years. So over the last week, we've had two big storms, got to see some snow, and I'm an Indiana boy. So it's nice to have a winter with some snow again. I dearly missed that. I actually didn't mind shoveling the driveway this week a couple of times. Now, if that kept up for 2 or 3 months, it would probably get old fast. But as of now, I'm finding it enjoyable. And I'll be back on the traveling again. I was in Virginia last week, and here in a couple of weeks, I'll be out in California and hoping to meet up with a couple of our YTPC brothers out there if we can make it work. And then I'm back for a wee bit, and then off to North Carolina. So holidays are over. Time to start moving about again. But speaking of our California brethren, Spencer put a video up recently, which I thought was rather courageous, and I mentioned it as such to him. He shared some vulnerability and let us know that he was going through kind of a difficult time over the last few weeks. So I sent him a note and a comment and as a bit of encouragement, but I think I should expand on that a bit. Because suffering is something we all deal with. Now, he didn't use the term suffering, but the way he was describing the last few weeks and the kind of dark spot that he's in, kind of slogging through the swamp of despair, as it were, I was like, that sounds like a time of suffering, And we can oftentimes in the Christian community, respond with some Christianese, as I like to call, well, you're the head, not the tail. You're blessed coming in and coming out, and you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you, and all these different things where it's basically, it's kind of like the snap out of it kind of version of a response to depression, which anybody who's been through depression can tell you that does not work. I've been thinking about how we respond to suffering. And that put me in mind of the book that I'm going to be highlighting today. Now, I've mentioned this book before. It's called Load Poems Like Guns. So it's like my version of Freedom Friday. But these poems are written by female authors in Afghanistan. This book was published in 2011. Most of the poets in this book were born in the late 70s to early 90s. So living under the thumb of the Taliban, then experiencing a brief respite of freedom thanks to the sacrifices of our men and women in uniform, and then now unfortunately living under the oppression of the Taliban again. So you talk about people living in suffering, they're right there. These women who strove for education and really felt the call to write and the talent to writing, and then got a brief time of freedom to do it, and then basically taken away again. And so I have a couple of poems here, because one, I think, really outlines the suffering that this particular poet has lived under and lived with. And the second one is her mode of response to it. So the first one is Quatrain 1. It kind of explains where she's at in life. I've grown used to black headscarves. I've grown used to moon-starved nights. I've grown used to always singing pain-soaked ghazals from inside the well. Ghazal's a song. So the sad thing about this poem, the sad thing about this quatrain, is that she's grown used to it. It's become commonplace. It's become the way she lives. She's grown used to the black headscarves and the moon-starved nights. Moon-starved because she can't be outside. You can't be outside without a male escort. So she's literally a prisoner in her own home. And when she does go out, she has to be covered head to toe. She doesn't have any kind of freedom of expression at all, and she's living under this tyranny. She has these pain-soaked songs racking her heart she desires to sing, and she has to sing them from inside a well. This place she's been put away, shut away from anyone, any form of contact or expression. And it's gotten to the point where she's used to it. She's been dealing with it so long, it's become commonplace. It's who she is. She's been in the swamp of despair for so long. That's all there is for her. So it's suffering experienced on a very deep level. And then this is a song, a ghazal that she wrote that kind of responds to how she feels in this situation. May God keep you from even a moment of sorrow and pain. May he pour long from love's ample cup to your life's veins. May he keep your eyes from drowning in dew, though God knows mine have seen their share of pain. May he take you to the lovely garden of songs, keep drought far from your heart's terrain. May you not be like me, craving to write the ferocity of grief, but deprived of the ink to record its stain. Even though I'm weary and racked with desire, may God spare you the suffering I've sustained. There's some powerful words in there. Craving to write the ferocity of grief. I mean, that just kind of tugs at your heart, And throughout this entire poem, what is she doing over and over and over again? Say, may God keep you from this. May God bless you. May God fill you with God's love. May God keep drought far from your heart's terrain. May your garden of life be watered by the presence of God. May you not experience any of these things. She's offering a lesson there on how we can deal with suffering and depression and sadness. By not focusing on ourselves, but asking God to bless others. Something I do often in counseling, when I have someone come in and complain about a coworker or a spouse or a friend, I say, pray for that person. Pray for that person earnestly that they would be blessed. It's not because we want the bad guys to win. It's following the advice of Christ. Pray for those who curse you. There's a reason for that. It takes the focus off ourselves, and it joins us in prayer with God to bless someone else. So we're thinking about other people and we're thinking about God. We're not thinking about our own circumstances. Now, it's okay to be sad sometimes. It's okay to be sad and depressed and have a time of grief. The Bible says that too. There is a time to weep. We just can't stay there. We also can't just snap out of it. We can't just oh, well, I'll just be happy. I'm the head and not the tail, right? There's a process to kind of get through that. The process that she exemplifies here in this song and that we see in the Bible is to focus on others, focus on prayer, spend time with the Lord thinking about other people. And before you know it, you look up and the swamp is gone and you're standing among the daisies again. So thanks again to Spencer for sharing that and being vulnerable. As I said, this probably wasn't easy to do, but it's important that people see that and know that. We have a community for a reason. It's not just to send fun gifts to each other, although that's great, right? But it's to encourage each other. It's just so we don't just do videos because we like the sound of our own voice, right? We do it because we can't be together in person. But we can support each other virtually as well. Sending messages, I do some email traffic back and forth with a few of you I know. Sending messages, sending email, asking for prayer, giving prayer, supporting each other in that. Focusing on each other, not ourselves. So when we have somebody going through a difficult time, by all means, be courageous like Spencer was and share that with us so we know to pray for you. So we know to offer you encouragement. And at the very least, walk with you empathetically in solidarity through your time of suffering, because you don't have to do it alone. There's a whole lot of us out there and in all different time zones. Well, that is it for this time. So I'm going to turn my attention back to my high maintenance but delicious tobacco. Hope you have a lovely week. As always, happy reading.